Hello, everybody. My name is Elwood, and you are watching Bam, the political vigilante making Gotham great again. So, the COP convention, or whatever they call it, conference. So the world leaders, several of whom are part of the problem, are going to get together to discuss how to fix the problem that they've created. And the United States is the biggest problem. Our military, the U.S. military, is the #1 polluter in the world. So, and I'm going to show you what the head of the UN said. Again, I show you this every couple months. There's a new UN report that says it's worse than they thought. It keeps getting worse and worse and worse. But I'm so glad we've sent $120 billion to Ukraine. It's so great that we're supporting Nazis in Ukraine. Meanwhile, the planet's dying. I love it. It's great. So I'm going to show you this. This is the speech the guy gave, which should be, whenever these speeches, it should be so alarming. This speech should be played all over the news. It's not. It was played on like Democracy Now! And then I'm going to show you CBS talks about the speech, but doesn't show it. Because CBS gets ad money from, Shell Oil and all of them. I mean, Shell and Exxon and all of the oil companies, they buy ad time on all the major networks. So that's why the networks talk about climate change, but not all the way. So this is what was just said in a fancy town. And anyway,
in just days, our planet's population will cross a new threshold. The 8 billionth member of our human family will be born. This milestone puts into perspective what this climate conference is all about. How will we answer when baby 8 billion is old enough to ask, what did you do for our world and for our planet when you had the chance? Excellencies, this UN climate conference is a reminder that the answer is in our hands. And the clock is ticking. We are in the fight of our lives and we are losing. Greenhouse gas emissions keep growing. Global temperatures keep rising, and our planet is fast approaching tipping points that will make climate chaos irreversible. We are on a highway to climate hell with our foot still on the accelerator. The war in Ukraine, other conflicts have caused so much bloodshed and violence and have dramatic impacts all over the world. But
these guys, I think these guys have made a couple of bucks from oil. I could be wrong. Glad they're there. Remember last year, there's Al Gore. Oh, so glad he ran a horrible campaign, didn't fight the Supreme Court so he could have been president, and then just let George Bush take over. Great. Boy, that's another tough as nails Democrat. And then liberals blamed the Green Party. No, blame him for running an awful campaign. Blame that guy.
We cannot accept that our attention is not focused on climate change. We must, of course, work together to support peace efforts and end the tremendous suffering. But climate change is on a different timeline and a different scale. It is a defining issue of our age. It is the central challenge of our century. It is unacceptable, outrageous, and self-defeating to put it on the back burner. Indeed, many of today's conflicts are linked with growing climate chaos. And the war in Ukraine has exposed the profound risks of our fossil fuel addiction. And today's crisis cannot be an excuse for backsliding or greenwashing. If anything, they are a reason for greater urgency, stronger action, and effective accountability.
We're on a highway to hell, his words. And a room full of people that could do something about it, and they're not going to. And the Democrats, again, are going to sit there and say, you better vote for us, not the Republicans. Because Republicans taking over is awful, is always bad for the environment. Look, Trump had a cabinet full of climate deniers. But what did I say would happen? During the primary, I was like, Bernie Sanders is our only hope. His Green New Deal is our only hope. And Bernie won't call out how the Democrats cheat him because he wants to be looked at nice because Bernie's sold us out. He sold us out. So again, if Joe Biden, who said we need during the campaign, we need a middle ground on climate policy. Middle ground does nothing. Right? Liz Warren said we need a green military. Imagine if Joe Biden was like, Green New Deal, putting Americans to work, fighting climate change. Everyone would be on board. We're bringing jobs back to America to make stuff here. He drives around an electric Ford F-150 for a photo op, but isn't really doing anything with it. And the climate policy, they had a big fight in Congress for weeks. $378 billion over 10 years. $37 billion a year is nothing. We've already given 4 times that to Ukraine for war in the last 6 months. So this is how CBS covered the COP27, that speech that guy gave. If I was president, I'd get all those world leaders there and I'd invite all of the oil executives and all of the Raytheon, Boeing CEOs. I'd get them all in a room. Let's all talk this out. And I'd lock the doors and I'd put them all in jail. And then I'd tell all their underlings, you guys better come up with how we're getting rid of oil and how we're going to end war and how we're going to reverse climate change. Use all your technology. Otherwise, I'm going to throw you in Gitmo with your bosses. That's what I would do when experts and scientists from every country on the planet are saying we are on the highway to hell. I would say it's going to take drastic measures to save the human race. That's what I would do. But I've been demonetized by YouTube. So, I would never be president. They would never allow me to be president. But that's what I would do. I'd put these assholes in jail. So this is from CBS News. Climate Watch.
World leaders continue to arrive in Egypt for the annual UN Climate Summit, or COP27.
I want you to listen to what this woman said, because she slips in a couple things at the top here that I bet you they don't want her to say. I bet you she got a talking to from her producers. Look, we all think climate change is important. And then I'm sure CBS, after this Climate Watch, cut to some Shell Oil, some greenwashing ad. I've shown you how the oil companies and the big corporations do greenwashing. They put, we're spending $10 million on green technology. Meanwhile, they're making $1 billion in oil profit. So the 10 million is nothing. It's like me giving you 50 cents and saying, I'm helping this problem. But I bet you she got a talking to after this, because just listen to what she says.
This year's talks began yesterday with many poorer nations attending in the hopes of gaining financial support from wealthier countries.
Because poor nations are getting crushed by this, and there's nothing they can do about it. America's getting crushed by this too. I've shown you how the NOAA, a federal website, is predicting how most of Florida and the East Coast and stuff is going to be underwater by 2040. But anyway.
The summit spans nearly 2 weeks. President Biden will join the event this Friday following the midterm elections. So for more on this, we want to bring in foreign correspondent Ramy Inocencio. He's following the story from London. I tell you, Ramy, Sharm el-Sheikh is a beautiful resort town. I think they should hold these COPs, in places that are impacted by climate change, so that these leaders can really see firsthand, what the problem is. Which issues are?
Yeah, great point. That's a great point. We should have this not in some swanky resort in Egypt, in some beach town or whatever they're at in Egypt, but how about we have it like, on a ship floating through one of the 5 floating islands of garbage, or one of the places that have been eradicated, that just floods and fires have destroyed it. Why don't we have the conference there? Because that's all it is. It's a show. And she keeps pointing this out, and she just slips it in. I guarantee you she's got a talking to after this report.
Taking center stage this year.
Sure. Well, Amory, first, good morning. Of course, the focus is on climate action to slow greenhouse gas emissions, to stop those rising temperatures, and to stop rising sea levels. But when the UN chief himself, Antonio Guterres, warns of climate chaos and that the world is on a climate road to hell, his words, and then the host country, Egypt, asks people to not let Russia's war in Ukraine derail climate action, you really can't help but think how much it actually has. It's caused an energy crisis. So countries here in Europe, instead of investing more in renewables, have had to invest in fossil.
Yeah. Our sanctions against Russia, again, I don't like what Putin is doing. I don't like what Putin is doing, but we pushed Russia into this. And now our sanctions are making it worse for our allies in Europe. This is what happens when you push for war. The collateral damage is awful. And now we've got to do more dirty fossil fuels. We could be working with Russia. We could get rid of the Nazis in Ukraine. We could broker peace in that region. And we could be working with Russia and China to lead the world in reversing climate collapse. That's what we could be doing, but we're not. Because our governments, Republican or Democrat, doesn't matter, are bought and paid for by the military-industrial complex that profits from war and doesn't care that it's spiraling us into the extinction of the human race. But anyway,
fuels, pump out more oil, more gas. That's also raised gas prices in the U.S. where you are. And, you know, the war, we also know, has caused a food shortage, led to inflation, supply chain disruption, and warnings of recession. So the UK and the U.S. even are expected to already go down that hole in the next year, if not sooner. We're talking major macro headwinds, already feeling a bit like the 2008 financial crisis. So governments are spending more in their own countries, less on climate action. Frankly, the leaders and at COP have a tough task ahead of them, really a harder chance for any kind of breakthrough.
So what are countries then hoping to gain out of this gathering?
Sure. Well, you know, every year there's talk about mitigating greenhouse gases and adapting to climate change that we're already seeing. We will see that again this year, but the big issue will likely be over what's called law.
This is basically saying everyone that's been complete in an area of the country or the world is completely flooded. We're going to give you a nice little paper cup to scoop out the water. That's mitigating. Does that help? Actually, we'll give you one of those red Solo cups, like at barbecues and college parties. Does that help get rid of the flooding? I'm sure it will. It's a good plan.
Loss and damage, basically getting developed countries to pay developing countries for the problems that they've been hit with. The idea here is that richer countries like the US, here in Europe, parts of Asia, have been and still very much are the biggest emitters of greenhouse gases per capita in the world. And less developed countries in Africa, Asia, and of course, Pacific Island countries have been getting slammed. You can think of it as reparations or compensation for all those hurricanes, all those typhoons, those floods, and the rising oceans that we've been reporting on. Now, this was all agreed back in 2015 at COP27 in Paris. But so far, there hasn't been much of anything, really, any agreement on which countries should pay, how much they should pay, or how that money should actually be transferred. And just last year in Glasgow, rich countries actually blocked a proposal to move this forward. But this year, John Kerry, the U.S. climate envoy, he's there already in Sharm el-Sheikh, and he says Washington won't be obstructing talks. So there is a silver lining, some hope at least for a breakthrough there.
So, you know, to that point, climate activist Greta Thunberg says she's not even going to go. And she called this an opportunity for greenwashing, lying, and cheating. She does not mince words.
Right on, Greta.
But the truth of the matter is, you know, we have these COP conferences, and I don't know how much really comes out of it. How many of these promises are actually kept?
Yeah, that is what critics have been saying, and they are not letting up through this year. And truthfully, they do have their reasons. There are so many examples, but one that I was just looking at, Coca-Cola, for example, a sponsor this year.
Coca-Cola's a sponsor. Ladies and gentlemen, this peace summit we want to bring about world peace is sponsored by Smith & Wesson. And we think they're going to really, Smith & Wesson is going to introduce the Peacekeeper gun that is really going to help keep the peace. So everyone has a gun to keep the peace. Coca-Cola, I'm sorry, they plunder they go to poor countries and steal their water to make their shitty Coke. God. And she's asking like, well, what's even the point? And then he's just like, yeah, well, we're trying to Coca-Cola sponsors COP27. Right. Coca-Cola used recycled. Okay. How many plastic bottles is Coke? How many billions of plastic bottles has Coke put out there? How many water tables have they just drained?
Makes sense. They need sponsors, but it also makes 120 billion plastic bottles every single year. And of course, they use fossil fuels to make plastic. This year, criticisms against COP go beyond climate, though, and that's because of the location. We're seeing those on the screen right now in Egypt, Sharm el-Sheikh. Beautiful, it looks it, but critics say Egypt is a dictatorship, and they point out that public protests are banned by law. They also...
We're having, you guys, here's where we're going to have the climate summit. It's really important. We need to reverse climate collapse so the human race doesn't go extinct. So we're having it in a beach resort run by a dictatorship where there's no protests or debate or freedom of thinking. And Coca-Cola is one of the sponsors. You on board? God, I know I am. Oh, God. Dunkin' Donuts is this year's obesity epidemic summit, and them along with Sizzler's all-you-can-eat buffet. And so we're going to really, tackle obesity by having these companies. Dunkin' Donuts is introducing its low-calorie donut. You know, if you don't want to gain weight, you just shouldn't eat donuts. All right. I can keep doing these jokes all day.
Point out that it is not a democracy. This year is an exception, though. There is a space for protesters, but interestingly, it's, guess what, far away from the conference venue. So
protesting is outlawed in our democracy, which is the theocracy in Egypt, pretty much. And we have profited from oil, so we're not. But we'll give you guys a place to protest. 20 miles outside the city, there's just an empty parking lot, and you guys can yell and scream all you want. And oh, by the way, there's no bathrooms or food. But really exercise your freedom of speech. Sounds like the World Cup in Qatar. Yeah, they're going to arrest people that are having sex that aren't married in Qatar, supposedly. That's great. It's good stuff, boy. The world, just go wherever the money is. I'm sure Egypt said, hey, we'll give you a bunch of money to have your conference here. And they said, fine, and didn't care about anything else, because this COP is just basically, it is the greenwashing summit. It is, how can we greenwash our bullshit products and our capitalist horrifying nightmare that has caused capitalism, late stage toxic capitalism has caused climate collapse. So they're still just looking at it like an event, like they're having a film festival, or, oh, this is where we're going to have the Super Bowl this year, or the World Cup or something.
people there aren't going to be able to hear, let alone see anything. And it's going to be under the hot sun.
Yeah.
Supporters and governments say it's still better to have a COP than to have none at all.
I suppose so. Rami, thank you very much.
Oh,
yeah, you bet.
Would you rather have there be no COP? What's the point of COP if it's not, nothing's getting done? It's a bunch of rich assholes making blustery speeches and doing nothing. Like literally just incremental centrism by the people that have caused this problem. In a democracy where you can protest miles away out in the hot sun where no one can hear you. I'm going to protest COP27, but I'm only allowed to do it inside this can. Thanks, everybody. Thank you for your protest. We're going to put this over here. Gee, no wonder Greta didn't go. It's useless. She went to the last couple and went, oh, this is bullshit. It's a bunch of dicks. And then they all just wanted to get photos with her. She's like, why should I go take selfies with the people that have caused this problem? God, we're going to go to a serial killer convention. We're just going to talk about not chopping up as many people. That's a better. But hey, the new Dahmer series is doing great numbers on Netflix. So maybe we need to. let a couple more serial killers just kind of run around a little bit. They don't have to kill like 30 people, but maybe there's like 7, 8. Get to double, get to 11. It's a nice round number. It's good luck. Then we shut them down. Not 30 people, just 11. Oh, God. I can't. I have to laugh and make jokes, guys, because it's so stupid and it's going to bring about the end of society. I don't know what to do. Oh, boy. This is why when Bernie and Tulsi endorsed Joe Biden, I was like, that's it. This was our last chance. I don't know what's going to happen other than like America either fully collapsing or a full general strike or whatever. I mean, I just do what I can in my life. You know, I try to do what I can. Ride your bike, take public transportation, do what you can. I have an electric car. There's, you know, Chevy's making more electric trucks and car. I know the electric car isn't going to be all end all, but it's some. I don't know what to do. These are the world leaders having a thing in a dictatorship in a resort in Egypt where you can protest out in the middle of nowhere and it's sponsored by Coca-Cola. Those are our leaders, guys. Those are the world leaders. Those are the smartest, brightest people throughout the world. Those are the world leaders. Man, do I have zero faith in any of them on any level. I'm sorry. Bernie had his chance. March 15th, 2020, the last debate. COVID had just hit this country. We had just started shutting stuff down. That's when he should have made his pitch. Joe, instead of going, my good friend Joe Biden, he should have said, if I'm president, I will be able to do Medicare for all, Green New Deal, give us all jobs. We are facing a pandemic. We are facing climate collapse. We're facing a student debt crisis. I will fix all of that. I'm the guy to get us out of this mess. And he just bailed and quit. And we're stuck with Coca-Cola's Egypt Fest. Oh, God. Like people getting drunk and high and having crazy sex parties at Burning Man are doing more for the environment than these clowns. Oh, God. Follow the money, connect the dots, get the truth. There's money being made at that conference, just like there is at any event. I used to run the podcast festival. I was a co-producer of the Los Angeles Podcast Festival. And we started growing that thing and people would say, oh, have your festival at this because there's money to be made. People are buying tickets. There's hotel rooms. It's just like anything else. It's just like Sundance Film Festival or the World Cup. You know, FIFA's so corrupt and the Qatar bribed all these people to get it. I'm sure Egypt bribed the cop guys. Like, unbelievable. What a dumb, like, and let me say this real quick. Does kids throwing like tomato soup on priceless works of art? That is stupid. Stop doing that. Damaging art makes people hate you and hate your cause. Go shut down an oil refinery. Go make it so these CEOs can't get on their private jet. Don't destroy priceless works of art. I'm an artist. That's stupid. Stop doing that. And I'm an environmentalist. I hate what you're doing. When people on your side hate your actions, it's ineffective. General strikes, shut it down. Go protest at a private resort where these assholes hang out. Go to their country clubs, go to their yacht clubs, go to their private jet airports. Don't fucking throw art on a Van Gogh. Those priceless works of art have they bring tears to people's eyes. They're so beautiful. Oh, Jesus. Stupid. Shave your knuckles for justice. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching. We are still in our 9th month of demonetization from YouTube. So support what we're doing at patreon.com/Graham Elwood or rockfin.com/Graham Elwood, which is a blockchain cryptocurrency platform. It's free to sign up, and there's a premium level at $10 a month. And for that, you get everybody on the platform's premium content. Myself, Lee Camp, Ron Placone, Jimmy Dore, Whitney Webb, Kim Iverson, Abby Martin, and many, many others. You can also support what we're doing at Venmo at Graham-Elwood and go to grahamelwood.com. We have a PayPal button and a PO box. I also have crypto wallets, which are all in the show notes. Thanks for supporting what we do.